Good morning, everyone. What's going on? And welcome back to the Stokastic Fantasy Football Channel. My name is Matt Savoca, and I am here, as always, with my buddy, Nicky Football, Nick Lepri, at Notorious FNTSY. Guys, it was a tough week 2 for many of us. Season-ending surgery for Trey Lance, a brutal blow. Obviously, that front office looking like geniuses for re-signing Jimmy Garoppolo. But for our fantasy teams, we got to figure some things out. We're going to talk quarterbacks as we do every single Tuesday. We're also talking tight ends, and we're going to take some time and talk about how we're dealing with the Trey Lance injury as well. But before we dig in, Nick, how are you today? How was week 2? How you feeling, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Some of my fantasy lineups, though, not so much. I had a team with Tom Brady, Superflex, Tom Brady, Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. And let's just say they scored roughly 7 points. I scored under 100 points in a Superflex league. It was very embarrassing. Hurt my soul.
I did too. I will admit. Some of these things happen when you play in multiple leagues. I get it. But it was particularly brutal in one league, also a Superflex. I was simply a Jalen Waddle play away from scoring under 50 points with 10 starters. That's how it goes sometimes. It's just a game of variance, and that's why we play DFS as well to offset this as well. Check us out over at the Stokastic DFS channel. But you're here for fantasy football, and thank you very much for being here. We got a couple dozen of you in chat already. Some of you already asking questions. Send them in. We're going to get to them. Okay, let's talk about week 3, where we are in the season. We have to be aggressive on the waiver wire, especially if we had quarterbacks go down. Dak Prescott and Trey Lance over the last 2 weeks being the 2 primary quarterback injuries. And then we've got a situation where a lot of teams have tight ends that are underperforming. A lot of stacks are underperforming. Like if you have Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like you are not feeling great as we head into week 3. But we also can't overreact, right? We still have to hang on a little bit to that ADP, to that draft capital that we were talking about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. That's just the nature of the beast, the way that football goes, and the way that just a 2-week sample size can sometimes sway us into thinking we know too much right now. Any big takeaways about week 2 and week 1 that you think might actually reverse going forward, reverse back to what we actually thought they were preseason?
Yeah. Well, the biggest one might be Tua. I mean, is Tua really the guy that's going to throw that many? Obviously, he's not going to throw 6 touchdowns against the Bills, but what happens when he throws 2? What happens when the Dolphins lose by 72 to the Bills?
Yeah.
Like, people are going to start overreacting again. So now we have the overreaction positively. Holy shit, Waddle and Hill can be top 5 receivers together. And then next week, if they do terrible, then people are going to overreact again. So, again, as a Dolphins fan, I hope they win. I think they're going to win. But in reality, like if I'm talking about what I actually think, not what I hope, I think this is going to be a very tough game for them. And I think that we're going to see them fall back down to earth. And the biggest overreaction has to be Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry looks like he's playing in a wheelchair, like playing wheelchair basketball, but he's playing in the NFL. Like he's moving so slow. It's embarrassing how bad he is. And people are going to overreact. Like I've seen a lot of panic on Derrick Henry. What do you think about Derrick Henry right now?
I am almost at red flag territory. If you want to make a big swing, like let's say you were expecting a lot from Trey Lance, you were expecting the ceiling from Trey Lance and you lost him for the year, and you want to take a big swing and buy low on a player who could change your season, I still think Derrick Henry, rest of season, is an interesting player to, hit up that owner about and see what they're thinking about Henry. But here's the concern, Nick. The man has a plate in his foot. The man had serious surgery, and while he came back because he's a freak of nature athletically, you might not be able to run the same with a plate in your foot. I don't know what that feels like. I can't quantify that. But we also know that the Titans are built as a team to be playing in a neutral game script or ahead. You saw last night when they fall behind, they can't do anything because they can't pass well enough. Treylon Burks has not emerged in the way that they expected him to, especially when you're getting rid of A.J. Brown. And so this offense can't really operate. It can't really do anything. And Malik Willis just rushing it out there ended up being the waving of the white flag. Unbelievable call on Live Before Lock if you weren't watching, where Matt Kajeski was asked straight up which backup quarterback, and he made the Malik Willis call. I
I
digress.
typed that in chat too. Give me some
All
credit
right, all
too.
right. Well, all right. Nicky Football gets his credit in the chat. Okay, let's get into these quarterback tiers because we only got about 45 minutes to get into two positions here. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll start answering some questions here, and we'll get the graphics going as well. J Law TV, what's up, man? Should I start CeeDee Lamb or Edward Solaire at the flex? Look, Edward Solaire has some opportunity concerns. McKinnon and Pacheco are still in there, but you're starting him right now with CeeDee Lamb. A big question mark with the way the Dallas Cowboys are operating. What say you?
Yeah, it seems like Michael Gallup might be good to go this week. Now, I'm not advocating for you guys to start Michael Gallup, but I talked about that on the Waiver Wire video on my channel. I was talking about how, hey, there is a chance that Gallup plays. Maybe that helps out CeeDee Lamb, but right now, the defenses are honing in on Lamb and just letting Noah Brown go crazy. So I'm kind of worried about CeeDee Lamb. I would definitely go Edward Solaire.
Yep, I agree. And I also think that both Gallup and Noah Brown should be pretty heavily prioritized if they're on your waiver wires as well. Gallup should have been drafted if you have an injured reserve spot. I didn't see this earlier. Nick, I need you to rage for me. I want to see it too. It's a little early. We're in the 10s. We're done.
Too early to yell, man.
Tier 1. No one we don't expect. Lamar Jackson, unbelievable game against the Miami Dolphins, but not good enough to win, as your Dolphins ended up taking it out. Jalen Hurts, oh my gosh, the swag on that touchdown to Quez Watkins, when he just turns to the sideline, like that's going to be the shot of the year. It was awesome. And then, the two physical freaks at the position, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I was talking to a buddy at the bar where Patrick Mahomes makes 4 to 5 throws a game that we would have freaked out about 2 years ago. They're just commonplace now. And we saw Josh Allen, no Gabe Davis, absolutely no problem. Stephon Diggs just goes completely off. Any qualms here? Anybody who should be added, or should we just move on because these 4 are just in a tier of their own right now?
Yeah, I think these 4 are the guys at the position. I think if Justin Herbert didn't have bruised ribs or whatever his injury is, I know he is in fear when he goes into that doctor, if you remember what that doctor did to Tyrod Taylor. But in reality, I think that if Justin Herbert was fully healthy, you might want to put him up here. But right now, this is pretty clearly the top tier of guys. I mean, Lamar Jackson, that's the best game I've ever seen out of someone who lost. That is the best game I've ever seen. And I think even the statistics, someone on the Dolphins Reddit, because I perused through there as a Dolphins fan, said that that's the highest ELO, whatever the fuck that means, a quarterback has ever had in a loss. And it was by a wide number. So that was pretty impressive. I really do think Lamar is going to stunt out on the New England Patriots. That is a extremely easy matchup for Lamar.
That defense is okay, but I agree. Lamar Jackson, man, unbelievable player, even in a loss, as you said. ELO is a great way of explaining performance above the average pool of players. So that was the best performance above the league average without it resulting in a win that we've ever seen. That makes sense to me. We got to move on here. They're really, really, really good, all 4 of them. Am I overreacting about Tom Brady this week? He has no Mike Evans, no Godwin, possibly no Julio. Should I worry and try to get a different QB like Wentz or Stafford or maybe Tua? I do think Wentz is a really interesting play here because he's passing the crap out of the ball in Washington. He's actually got a plethora of weapons with health, right? Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel. That does a wide receiver core make or receiver core. But I do think Tom Brady is going to end up having stronger days. It's just 2 weeks. He's going to get his players back. Man, this Julio injury sucks because he looked so good in week 1, but this is the way it's been the last few years, and it's often how it is for veteran, hyper-athletic receivers. What do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom Brady, like you said, is going to be fine. This week up against Green Bay, I would consider other options. I think it's a fine matchup normally, like, right, if Mike Evans is there, if Godwin is there, if Fat Lenny is perfectly healthy, but that's just not where we're at right now, so I'm not necessarily sold on Brady this week. But I am sold.
He's not in tier 2, is he? Yeah, so he's outside the top 10. I don't think you can put him there. Based on matchup, you're obviously putting some players there like Derek Carr. I still have question marks. Kyler Murray. Say what you will about that team. They found a way. And Russell Wilson, I think he may have found himself in a situation where coaching is holding him back yet again. Isn't that insane? Yep. But maybe part of it is on Russell Wilson. It doesn't look explosive like I thought it would be in Denver.
Yeah, maybe Nathaniel Hackett watched that Super Bowl so many times that he's like, wow, we're on the goal line. Can't let Russell Wilson throw the ball. Let's fucking run it, and it's not going to work. I saw some crazy stat. I think I retweeted it. It's like they've been in the goal line. They've been in the red zone, and I don't think they've scored yet. Like they haven't scored a touchdown, and they've been in there like 10 times.
Oh, my goodness. Well, okay, so that means there is some mean reversion, some positive reversion, if you will, that you likely see more touchdowns. But I just want to see him going deep. I just want to see him throwing more often to players like Cortland Sutton. And I know Jerry Jeudy got beat up, but he looks like he's going to be able to play.
Yeah. Sutton had a great game.
I guess he's still 5th in the NFL in air yards going into, well, I guess through week 1. The service I use doesn't quite have the week 2 stats yet. We could get it up, obviously. This is still you're probably starting them range. I still think you're not benching Russell Wilson. You're certainly not benching any of the rushing players in this group. And I'm glad to see Matthew Stafford go off very well against that Atlanta defense that is still really bad. I guess the only concern here is Herbert at 7. If he can't go or if he's hobbled by an injury, you're still starting him if he's starting, right?
Yeah, he's going up against the Jaguars. So realistically, even while he's banged up, I think he's going to be perfectly fine. But I do slightly worry about the fact that he's not going to be that guy, right? Where he's not going to be able to win you your week. Not that quarterbacks ever really win you your week, right? Unless you have like Lamar Jackson or Tua last week. But he's not going to be able to really put up that crazy point total, even though if this was healthy Justin Herbert, he could score 30-plus points against the Jaguars. The Jaguars legitimately look good, but it might just be that the teams the Jaguars are playing aren't the best, except for Washington, I guess. But last week, man, oh man, the Jaguars made the Colts look like a disaster. And I know we're going to talk about Matt Ryan, but real quick, I think Frank Reich is going to get fired.
It very well may be true. And I have a couple layers to this. One, 100% agree. The Jaguars look like, as I said all offseason on this very channel, a much more competent team all around, especially offensively. And now what I'm really excited about is with Trevor Lawrence starting to gain some confidence, starting to make some throws, obvious connections with Christian Kirk. Maybe they, with a subpar defense, because that is what their talent is, they can actually hang tight in shootouts. And so I think one way we can start to play this, if you're looking at the betting markets, is betting the over on games that have Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. You know, I realize it's a 7-point spread. I'm looking at a point total of 48, right in the mid-tier of the totals in week 3. We got a lot of stuff available to you if you're over on the Odd Shopper channel, our brother channel, if you will. Check them out over there. And at oddshopper.com, they will give you the best odds to play. And we have a ton of sportsbook offers, guys. Like at BetMGM, they've had these money line bets, $10 to win 200 in free bets. It's huge over there. Definitely check that out. And I'll throw it into a pinned comment as well, since we're talking about it, because we really do have some great offers. If you're dipping your toe into the betting waters, you can also make some money there. But I also think offensively, we can bet on this game having a little bit more shootout potential. So I really hope Herbert plays. I'm starting Trevor Lawrence if you got him right now. Let's head to tier 3 as we keep going, and I'll answer some questions here. Jonathan asks, is Carson Wentz going to be the sleeper QB of the year? He's certainly going to pass the amount that he could be. Could the interceptions come in bunches? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Carson Wentz is still Carson Wentz, but the thing is that this offense is really good. Like, Riverboat Ron, I thought might be on the hot seat. That offense is looking great. Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson seems like an excellent pick, right? People were judging that pick in the first round. Looks great. Terry McLaurin, I'm not too sure why he is not like the focal point in this offense, but you know what? It's working. It's not great for the people who have Terry McLaurin, but it's working for the team. So Carson Wentz is going to be great. Continue to be great. Now, I think right now he's like a top 5 quarterback in fantasy, or at least he was yesterday prior to the Monday Night Football games. That's not good. He's not going to finish like that, right? But could he finish as quarterback 7 or quarterback 10? Definitely. So I think Carson Wentz was the sleeper quarterback. I didn't see it coming at all. But, you know, I'm not sure many people did, if I'm being honest with you.
No, of course. I mean, that's why they're a sleeper. And truthfully, Jonathan, the late round quarterback, like the last round quarterback that hits, is one of the most valuable cards every year in fantasy football. If you're thinking about it, sort of like a card game, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just really hard to tell who that's going to be. There were some things that pointed to Carson Wentz, and that's why if you're playing things like best ball, you can take some chances there. But there were also a lot of warts on the profile, a lot of concerns. Like Curtis Samuel hasn't been on the field. Jahan Dotson, as good as he was coming out of college, we had no idea. A huge question mark. And one thing I will mention that while Terry McLaurin has taken a backseat in this offense, if you use weighted opportunity, which is a combination of air yard share and target share, he is right in line with Curtis Samuel as the number one player on this team. It is 1A, 1B, which we didn't realize, but he's still right there as a number one. This tier is kind of, you may have better options at this point, but I think we should talk about the players who have kind of dipped into this tier and the players who have boosted themselves beyond where their ADP expectations were, specifically Tua Tagovailoa with a blisteringly good second half against the Baltimore defense, and Marcus Mariota, who continues to rush more than we thought and continues to, at the very least, show something with the Atlanta offense. I mean, 27 points against the Los Angeles Rams. I realize they're 0-2, but offensively, they seem, again, I'll use that word, competent.
Yeah, I mean, one guy that really is sticking out to me here is quarterback number 11, Kirk Cousins. Now, we all know Kirk Cousins is bad in prime time. I even fucking forgot like a dumbass last week. I was like, oh, Kirk Cousins against the Eagles, that should be a high-scoring game. No, Kirk Cousins plays like Stevie Wonder would in prime time. It's absolutely atrocious. So this week he gets Detroit. That's a pretty solid matchup. Should be a back-and-forth game. This game is not on prime time. So Kirk Cousins, you like that. He'll be just fine. Darius Slay was the best receiver on the field last night.
Yeah, wide open Darius Slay caught a few passes there. I saw that as well. Let's get to some questions about some players in these tier. Wow, we're already here. Jonathan asks a follow-up. Carson Wentz a better start than Aaron Rodgers against Tampa Bay?
I would say no, but the Bucs defense looks really good. I know that we don't have Wentz ranked. We have Wentz ranked ahead of Rodgers.
Yeah, we'll see. So the Stokastic projections, I should have mentioned this up top. The Stokastic projections run for the first time on Tuesday afternoon, evening. So what we do is we bring in fantasy pros and then we just group them into tiers. Again, it's Tuesday. We're not really honing in on the specifics of the projections. We're just turning the sheet over from week 2 to week 3. But it's important to get these groups together so that you can figure out the waiver wire and, of course, get your start-sit decisions lined up. But we're here all week, 10 a.m. Eastern every single morning, and then before Thursday Night Football and before the main slate on Sunday, Yeah. So we're going to help you all the way through. This is just about grouping players together in opportunity and expectation ranges. Should have said that up front, but I still think you're starting Aaron Rodgers in this case.
Yeah, I would probably start Wentz if I'm being honest.
You would? Okay. Even because point dogs.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's defense is just so good. Right? Does that not scare you at all? I mean, Rodgers looked fine against Chicago, but he didn't torch Chicago, so I don't know. I'm just going to go with Wentz.
Okay, I buy it. I mean, I can't believe we're at that point. I still think that, I think I go with Aaron Rodgers. I just think Carson Wentz playing against the Eagles, even at home, I can't trust it yet.
Yeah, I was about to say the one thing that kind of scares me about Wentz is the revenge game narrative has not worked this year. It seems like these guys, oh my God, it's the Eagles, or oh my God, Baker's playing the Browns, and then they just shit themselves. Now, I'm not even sure Wentz is competent enough to realize that he's playing the Eagles, so I think Wentz will be just fine. But that does kind of worry me, if I'm being honest with you. The revenge game has not worked well in 2022.
No, it hasn't. Are we panicking? As Tom Brady managers, Hector asks, should I spend solid fab on Jimmy G?
No.
Well, first I will say this. Look at the banner up top. Notorious Fantasy by Stokastic. That's Nick's solo channel. Definitely go subscribe over there. He's got a waiver wire video that comes out on Mondays. I've got one that already came out this morning on this very channel. So you can check that out after this video. So we've got all the waiver wire picks for you this week, including the quarterback position. I am not panicking. We'll say it's a yellow flag situation with all these injuries, with Cole Beasley coming in. Clearly, they need some help at receiver at the moment. It doesn't look as good. It looks like it's faltering a bit, but I still think this tier 3, you're probably starting him the 12 to 17 range in terms of ranking is right where we have him, and that's where I have him rest of season.
Sorry, I just smacked my mic. But what I was going to say is while I'm somewhat panicked about Brady, I'm not spending up on fucking Jimmy Garoppolo. That's really what scares me there, right? Again, Jimmy Garoppolo's fine. He's a game manager. He's good to take the 49ers to the playoffs, but he's never going to step up. He's never going to be the reason why you win your week, whereas I think Tom Brady could potentially do that. So if you're going to spend fab on anyone, I would rather take the shot on a guy like Mariota who could be available. Now,
Yes.
Again, if you're picking up Jimmy G, this might be a 2-quarterback league you're talking about or a super flex league. So if you're really worried, then pick up Jimmy G. But at the end of the day, are you really going to want to start Jimmy Garoppolo up against the Broncos, whose defense on paper is pretty good, over starting Tom Brady? I just don't think I would personally. That's kind of just how I think about it.
You had this awesome talk radio kind of colloquials thing going on. You're at the end of the day, you really want to start Jimmy Garoppolo?
Fucking gabagool Jimmy Garoppolo.
You're really doing Garoppolo against the Broncos? Come on. All right.
Get out of here.
Is Carson Wentz a better start than Aaron Rodgers? Oh, what am I doing? Okay, we already did that. Anything you want to add about tier 3 here? I think Jameis Winston, just the amount of air yards he's throwing for against a defense that is less strong as Tampa Bay, he'll be just fine here.
Yeah. Jameis, the real quick, that injury might have affected him on Sunday, if I'm being honest with you. The fact that, if you get hit in the ribs or that area, that's going to hurt really bad. Obviously, that was a throwback Jameis game. That's like Jameis Tampa Bay type of game. Normally, Jameis is a little bit, now in New Orleans, a little less crazy, right? He kind of plays the game normal, He's not trying to do anything crazy. I think this week we get back to normal Jameis. So, again, don't overreact to one bad game against Tampa where there's a fucking WWE match going on between Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore. And let's talk real quick. I know we have to go quickly, but why the hell is Marshawn Lattimore not getting suspended, but Mike Evans is? To me, that doesn't make very much sense.
I don't understand it either. I will admit that from my very uninformed take, it looked like there was definitely chirping from the sideline from Brady, kind of instigated via words through Buccaneers players, and so the instigator is getting punished more, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. This is tough to break down. Ultimately, I think what you do is you react to the fact that one player is getting fined, the other player is getting suspended, and the Buccaneers reacted by signing a veteran, meaning they feel like they're down enough where they need to make a move. Doesn't mean I'm not starting Brady. I think this is a great way to sum it up, James Joseph. If you have a QB not living up to his draft spot, don't worry. I will say yet. Don't worry yet. When he gets it together, he's going to have a 2 a game soon. Keep the faith. I do think what we're dealing with is a small sample size. 2-game sample for every single team. The variance of football means that Tua can have a 6-touchdown game, and as you said, go back to 1 or 2 touchdowns and be the same exact inherent player underneath from week to week. So I agree, James Joseph. That's a great way to look at it. Now, there are some players who by week 3 or 4 were just waving the red flag, and we're saying this is different than we thought it was in August. We need to make a move. For most players, we're simply not there yet because of the sample size. Let's move on to tier 4. We'll answer some questions here. Starting Garrett Wilson with confidence in week 2. Benched him and started Thielen. No. That's why we got you covered with all those start-sit questions going forward. And Garrett Wilson, man, along with Jahan Dotson, they both look great.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect Thielen to be this bad to start the season. It's really sad because I was a big Thielen guy. He's scoring all the touchdowns, and Kirk Cousins just looks awful. He's throwing the ball to fucking Irv Smith, who can't catch the football. So it's a tough scene. But I think personally Thielen will bounce back. But right now, if you had to ask me this week, Garrett Wilson or Thielen, I'm just gonna tell you to start Garrett Wilson. I'm gonna be honest.
I can't believe I'm saying it, but Garrett Wilson has double the red zone targets of Cooper Kupp. He's tied for the most end zone targets in the NFL. That's ridiculous. What is Joe Flacco up to? But
Flacco's elite.
If you follow that volume, man, Garrett Wilson getting all the work he can possibly get in the red zone. And Elijah Moore, honestly, he looked banged up on Sunday. And Corey Davis, nice touchdown. So, yeah, you're starting him. Tier 4 is I think we can trust him, question mark. Mac Jones kind of on the way down, while Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff absolutely on the way up. In a Superflex league, these players, Goff and Lawrence, are every week starters going forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like Goff a lot. I talked about him in my waiver wire video. I talked about him last week. Goff, before yesterday's game, was a top 10 quarterback in fantasy football. How would you have possibly have guessed that Jared Goff, as well as Carson Wentz, would be top 10 quarterbacks? We've seen Jared Goff be good in the past. In LA, this offense in Detroit's legit. This team in Detroit might be legit. Like, they look incredibly good. Up against the Vikings, again, I like the high-scoring matchup. Mac Jones, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been a Mac Jones guy. The Ravens defense, while they absolutely fell apart in the second half against the Dolphins, I think they're going to play a little bit tougher up against Mac Jones because Mac Jones also doesn't have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They have Jacoby Myers and Devontae Parker and Nelson Aguilar. So not as good as what the Dolphins got. So I don't really like Mac Jones. I'd have him ranked significantly lower personally.
I think that's fair. And if I had to have a hunch, I'd say the Stokastic projections are going to agree with you. I think we can just say great job, both Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff, using the fact that the front office built up both teams around them, including improving the coaching staffs, and it's paying off. We've seen Jared Goff at least lead a highly skilled offense with a great offensive line to pretty high heights. I think we're seeing it again here. So let's hit up tier 5 here because I know you guys play in some super flex leagues. Hey, Jeremiah Carter, just want to do this real quick. So we're definitely going to talk about wide receivers on Thursday. We spent a whole 45 minutes talking that one position because I know you guys have a ton of questions. But I also want to shout out to our new player comparison tool. It won't update on Tuesdays. But over at Stokastic.com, we have a player compare tool for you where you can actually throw these players into our projection system and actually see how we feel about it. Now, you don't have to worry about their DFS salary, but it works all the same, right? Because you're going to see the literal projection difference and who you would go for and the percentage chance you should go for them. So it's really helpful, even in a fantasy football standpoint. But we'll get to that specific question on Wednesday. Any players from the 22 to 25 range that you're just like, nope, absolutely not doing it? Matt Ryan might be that one for me.
For me, I don't want Matt Ryan, but I also don't want Justin Fields. This motherfucker has thrown the ball 17 and 11 times. What the hell is this, man? I understand David Montgomery looks like Barry Sanders against the Green Bay Packers, but what the fuck is this, man? We didn't draft Justin Fields for him to throw the ball 4 times a game. He's going up against the Texans, right? On paper, great matchup. Here comes the Justin Fields. Not necessarily a breakout game, but like this good game from him. And then he's going to throw the ball 12 times. So I don't trust anything to do with Justin Fields, and it's sad to see. This Eberflus guy, crazy how much they're running the ball. It doesn't really make sense, especially against Green Bay. And also, I don't know how he didn't score, too. Justin Fields definitely scored that touchdown. The NFL is so stupid.
Oh, BPZ, I hope you're here and hanging out because we got it. Yeah. It took him till 10:30. That's when he needs to, maybe the coffee's kicking in. I don't know your morning routine. Maybe it's something stronger, not water. Who knows? But we got it. I agree.
We're skiing in the bathroom earlier.
I saw a great tweet that had Justin Fields pass attempts and then the rest of the NFL, and it just had it ranked. And Justin Fields pass attempts were behind the teams that had only played one game going into Monday Night Football. So Justin Fields in 2 games passed less than the Bills did in 1 game.
Of course. Makes sense.
Ridiculous. I think there are better days ahead for Matt Ryan. I think if it ends up being like 27-3, just get the waiver claims in and wave the flag on Matt Ryan, right? Because they're playing the Chiefs. They're at home. If they get walloped again, it's freaking over. They're cleaning house. We might see Sam Ehlinger in there at some point or something. It could get really bad in Indy. And I hope that Jonathan Taylor just at least gets to touch the ball 30 times if that's the case. But I have to be concerned there as well. We'll get there on Wednesday. But I do have to say that Matt Ryan is a big concern for me. Do we want to do tier 6 or do we want to flip things over to the tight end position? Because I know we're running out of time and I want to answer some questions as well.
That's fine. I'll just throw them on the screen. There's really no one to talk about here that I'd even want to start. Ryan Tannehill looks awful. The elite Joe Flacco, maybe. Probably not, though. I played Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. That's why I actually think I like Flacco the most in this tier.
Okay. I think you might be able to play Jacoby Brissett, if I'm being honest with you. But again, I don't think he's going to ever do anything crazy. He's just going to be like quarterback 17 and in a super flex league. That might be good enough for you. So I'll move to the tight ends, and then we can answer these questions real quick.
Perfect. All right, just because I know people have waivers, I have Schultz and the number 1 waiver spot. Should I go for Gerald Everett with a waiver try or try to snipe him at 3 a.m.? Oh, the 3 a.m. snipe. I don't play in any leagues like that anymore. I used to do that. I used to do that. Okay. I have Schultz in the waiver wire. Honestly, no, because Keenan Allen is coming back. I do think if you got the 3 a.m. snipe in you, that is a solid move. I don't think he's worth the number 1 waiver wire spot. I think you hold it.
He's not. And if you were to pick up anyone off the waiver wire, at the number 1 spot, like who's really worth the number 1 spot right now? Like maybe Garrett Wilson is, if he's available.
Maybe Jordan Mason. They're going to run the crap out of the ball. Tyrion Davis-Price is down. Eli Mitchell is on IR. No way Jeff Wilson Jr. can handle that full workload. Obviously, Deebo Samuel's getting touches as well. But this running back share overall has just drastically shifted with Trey Lance being out, because Jimmy Garoppolo is not rushing the ball at any high percentage rate. So if anyone I'm spending first waiver wire spot on, it's Jordan Mason now that Tyrion Davis-Price is out.
Yeah, and then obviously if Jeff Wilson is still available, because I was looking at the percentage they owned in. I didn't put him in my video, but he was 65% owned on Yahoo. So again, I'm not saying that's a huge amount, but it depends on the website you look on. Like I get comments like, Nick, this guy's not available in any leagues I play in. It's like, well, on Yahoo it says he's owned in 23% of leagues. So I guess it just depends what platform you play on.
Okay, there you go. And AV, I'm seeing your responses there. First of all, thanks for hanging out, man. And yeah, you'll keep it. So yeah, we talked to any players worth the first spot. I think you're thinking about it just fine. I think we laid out the reasoning for other people there, so hopefully it helped you guys out. I've heard of these players in tier 1. Travis Kelce, really? Mark Andrews, they're pretty good. Mark Andrews got a touchdown called back, and they're like, no. And the very next play, they threw him the ball wide open in the end zone. Kelce will certainly have better days as well. Anything to really add here?
No, you already know why you're starting these guys, right? Kelce looks amazing. Andrews looks amazing. Let's just move to tier 2.
Couldn't agree more. Help me, please, he says. Wentz or Burrow? Burrow
I'd go Burrow.
4.5 point favorite. Wow. Against the Jets. Burrow against the Jets.
Yeah, Joe Shiesty. But things are not looking great in Cincinnati.
No,
to be honest.
No, they are not.
The Dolphins going to beat them by roughly 42. Not next week. Not this week. Next week.
I would say in this tier, guys, pay less attention to the overall number and to the fact that they're all grouped together. These are players who have, based on their opportunity, strong chances of doing well. But because they're tight ends, their floor is still under 5 fantasy points. And we've now seen it with multiple of these players. I almost guarantee you, we were talking about this before the stream, Nick, that Kyle Pitts will not be number 3 in our rankings. But if you look at opportunity value, expected fantasy points, I think you're going to see it rise. Same with TJ Hawkinson. Dalton Schultz, this PCL injury is concerning because now you might just not get any separation. I still think they need someone so badly in that offense that he's going to try to gut it out. Yeah. But they need Michael Gallup and Noah Brown to step up more than ever. Tyler Higbee is probably the safest of this group along with Waller, no?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Pitts, I don't think I've ever lit money on fire more than playing Kyle Pitts in DFS the last 2 weeks. Like, it was literally like you put him in your lineup, you go watch the game, and then Arthur Smith just doesn't like him. Arthur Smith even commented yesterday. He was like, reporters like, why are you not giving the ball to Kyle Pitts? And they're like, well, we're not playing fantasy football. This is the NFL, pal. It's like, fuck you, bro. Give the ball to Kyle Pitts. I don't understand. How is he not more a part of the offense? Like, how is Olamide Zacchaeus getting the ball, not Kyle Pitts? It's very concerning. I'm going to be honest, against Seattle, like, the matchup's perfect, right? Here's the bounce back performance coming. Like, you're not going to sit Kyle Pitts for some Evan Ingram or Hayden Hurst or something, but you have to be legitimately thinking this guy might score me 3 points.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. If you're thinking about drafting and next year, what happened to the graphic there?
Oh, that's my bad. I pressed the wrong button.
If you're thinking about drafting next year, there really is a value in the absolute elite tight end. Yes, there's always some risk of ruin, but the the Kelseys and the Andrews of the world really are in a different tier than the tight end 3, 4, 5 through 8, even though it feels similar when you look at overall projections. And still, you still have games where, like last week in week 2, where Kelsey just kind of disappears. I will say this, the Chargers, from a slot and middle of the field defense standpoint, might be one of the best in the NFL. Like, slot receivers are going to get jammed up all year by the Chargers defense. We do have a super chat. Verily? I'm so sorry. Verol. Thanks so much, man. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Got a trade offer. Mark Andrews for your Leonard Fournette. You have Kamara, Aaron Jones, and Brian Robinson. Would you guys make this trade? I think you're thin at running back. Thin to the point where I think you have to hold on to Fournette right now. I saw that he tweeted out that he's like, the touchdowns are coming, I promise, fantasy owners. So talk about someone who like actually wants to succeed. Kamara, I don't think this is a long-term injury, and I think they want to utilize him a ton once he's back because of the injured nature of their quarterback. But with just Aaron Jones as a surefire every week starter at the moment, I think you have to hold Fournette. What do you say? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I also read that, now again, it's just Tuesday, right? I read this on Monday, that Kamara could miss this game. And he also might miss next week. Now, again, it's not a long-term injury. He's not going to miss 4, 5, 6 weeks. Not going to go on IR. But that does concern me enough to hold Leonard Fournette. And I also think the days are better ahead for Leonard Fournette, right? These first 2 games, they're all right. Like, week 2 was bad. I tweeted out that picture of that video. Did you see that video a couple of weeks ago of the kids that are playing football? And this huge kid gets the ball and he just barrels through all the kids and then hits the gritty in the end zone. I was like, Leonard Fournette against the Saints. He didn't do that. But that's what Leonard Fournette that kid reminded me of Leonard Fournette. I think Leonard Fournette has better days ahead. So I'm holding him. And again, Brian Robinson, he looks good in like the videos you're watching, but that's not game speed. And I'm not a doctor, but it seems like if you were to get shots, like, I don't know how he's going to be that explosive early on.
I do agree that it's like, from just a completely uneducated standpoint,
yeah,
it sounds scary. But if he looks good enough to play and looks good enough to be on the field, then we're going to trust it. I think he's a great stash. I think he's a great stash, especially with the Washington offense playing better than we expected. But he's a stash. So ultimately, I have to ask you this, especially because I want to spend a little time here because he was happy enough to grace us with a nice super chat. Would you do this trade, Andrews for Kamara?
No, definitely not.
Okay. So you believe Kamara going forward enough that you want to hold?
Yeah, I don't think what we've seen out of Kamara week 1, that's not Kamara. There's much better days ahead. I also don't think Taysom Hill's going to be all that involved once Jameis gets healthy as well. I mean, that's just kind of how I see things.
No, it makes sense to me entirely. I think we can probably move on because if you have one of these tight ends, you probably don't have another one of the top tier, so you're probably starting him. Tyler Higbee is the one that might actually still be on a waiver wire or 3. Obviously, with the amount of opportunity value given to him versus the, say, wide receiver 3 on that offense, it's going to be Kupp by a mile. Robinson and Higbee are kind of the 2A and 2B. That is more than enough on a highly powered offense like the Rams. Now we move into this third tier, which is the tier of underperformers, tier of overperformers, and tier of old reliables. Zach Ertz is the old reliable that sticks out the most. Overperformers, Gerald Everett for sure looks really, really good, but there's still some uncertainty because, again, the Chargers will hopefully be getting Keenan Allen back at a certain point. There's going to be some variance towards the other receivers there, but I think you're starting him every week. Same with Dallas Goedert. What about Albert O? Are we able to play him tight end 10 right now in Fantasy Pros rankings? Is this right at all?
He had 0 points last week, a nice goose egg. And again, I don't think it's his fault. I think the team's going to look better in the future. But right now, you can't trust Nathaniel Hackett. You just simply can't. This team does not look good. On paper, this is one of the best offenses in the AFC. It should be a team that's putting up a lot of points. This is a team in week 1 that targets the tight end heavily. Then in week number 2, the game plan looks completely opposite. The Texans are holding on in the game. What the hell is happening to the Denver Broncos? And again, I don't think Russell Wilson's necessarily washed up or something, but it's very concerning. Against the Niners defense, Do I want to start Albert Aquabanum? Probably not.
Freiermuth, absolutely in this tier. Goddard,
Definitely.
even though he's had a 4-target game already, which is pretty low, absolutely in this tier. Everett and Ertz, absolutely in this tier. The concerns here are Hurst, who still has some target variance because of the 3 great receivers on the field with him. And I just can't get behind Albert O. Again, this is Fantasy Pros. Over the course of the week, we switch it over to the Stokastic.com rankings and projections, but we want to get these players into groups for you. I think we can move on here. Want to answer the final questions here. We got about 3 to 5 minutes left. Thanks so much for hanging out. We got over 100 hanging out. Make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button as well. And if you want to know when we're going live, hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know as well. Speaking of, I know there are some of you out there. I saw the comment that someone just joined their 2-0. That is awesome to hear, Smoke Dog, but not every team, not every fantasy roster is destined for absolute greatness. And that's why I want to talk about our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, for just a minute. They have a really, really cool tournament. If you want to play some best ball, it starts at week 6 and then goes till week 17. It's called the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. I've gotten some tickets over there. It's just $10 and a huge prize pool. We're talking 6 figures to the winner. Promo code Stokastic, Stokastic, that gets you up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. As we say all the time, Nick, free money is hard to come by. Get the free money, get those free entries, and forget about it. Forget about it when you're talking about your bad teams, and get some good best ball tickets in there. It's a whole lot of fun. And not only do we have some live drafts that we did all summer over on the Notorious Fantasy Football channel, we turned it over to we called it the Best Ball channel during best ball season. So you can see what we did, but you can always also hit us up at Notorious Fantasy or at Draftaholic. We can answer your questions as well. Check it out over there today. All right, guys, let's do some final questions here. Yeah, I like that, getting just all the tight ends. We're going to see some movement here, so we'll probably bring this chart back up on Friday. Tier 4 is gigantic, and you just plug your nose and play somebody. Logan Thomas is one that I highlighted in my waiver wire video, and George Kittle is one that I'm hoping gets much, much higher up the rankings now that Jimmy G is in there. It's just about health, right?
Yeah, definitely. If George Kittle is healthy, you're going to play him. That's just 100% fact. And then I like Logan Thomas as well. I talked about him in my waiver wire video. I also think another player that's ranked too high is Cole Kmet at this point. I was a big Cole Kmet guy. I believed in him. Thought, oh my God, the Bears have no one to throw the ball to. Turns out the Bears just don't want to throw the fucking ball. So just go ahead and take Cole Kmet, dribble him around, throw him onto the waiver wire. Fuck that guy. If I'm being honest, that's just how I feel about him. Tyler Conklin, I really like. Conklin, Joe Flacco is feeding the ball to Tyler Conklin. Let me read his stats real quick because it is honestly impressive. 7 targets week 1 against Baltimore. He doesn't really do much with it, like 4 receptions, 16 yards. But if you're in half PPR, that's 10 fantasy points. And then last week, 6 receptions on 9 targets. Nice. For 40 yards, 7 fantasy points. Like, he's a decent start every week. Again, I'm not saying he's a world beater, but at the end of the day, up against the Bengals haven't looked the hottest. Like, maybe Tyler Conklin could get it done as a top 10 receiver. You just described Kyle Pitts level production. Yeah, and you got for free off the waiver wire. You got it for free. Hey, the most valuable pieces. If we knew how to find them every single year, we do it every single draft. Truly, we would spend 0 draft capital on tight end and 0 draft capital on quarterback because there are people that emerge every single year. It's just the fact that it's very hard to find. Once you find them, hold on to them because you found something great. Ayuk and Sanders. I assume that's Miles Sanders for Breece Hall. I want the Ayuk Sanders side, especially with Jimmy G likely to throw more in San Francisco. Ayuk has a carved out role. Yeah, I'm not really wanting. I'm fine trading for Breece Hall, right? Because I know the pastures are greener on the other side. But right now, Sanders looks decent. The Eagles' offense looks really good, and I just don't like Ayuk. Not that I don't like Ayuk. I mean, I like Ayuk more than Breece Hall, is what I meant to say. I think Ayuk is in a pretty good spot now. Sucks that Lance got hurt, though, because it really did seem like Lance and Ayuk had a pretty decent connection, at least in camp. I agree. I'm just upset about that a lot. Going to lose some money in some best ball rosters. That's okay. Najee for Kelsey. Not doing it. I'm keeping Kelsey. Yeah, I'm keeping Kelsey as well. All right. Easy as that. Look, what's wrong with Najee, man? Hope he's okay. Yeah, he's hurt. Dawson Knox or Gerald Everett in week 3.
Everett to me as well. And I do want to get to this Irv Smith in tier 5. This is just flat wrong. Again, I said it a couple times on the broadcast earlier, but these are Fantasy Pros rankings that we turn into tiers. Over the course of the week, when the Stokastic projections run, we flip it over to the Stokastic rankings, of course, and we will not see Irv Smith at 30. I promise you that. Absolutely not. Okay, we got to go here, but I do want to say thank you to all of you for hanging out today. It is just a blast doing these shows for you. Over 100 hanging out. It really, really helps us to hit the like button, to say hello in chat. And if we didn't get to your question, definitely leave a comment below. I know, Nick, you always say this because you always check out these videos. We will try our best to answer every single thing here. We got a lot ahead of us, a lot of football ahead. Do not despair if you had some of these bigger injuries. We can still work our way through, especially with those trade wires we can work our way through. Nick, this is a lot of fun. Follow him at NotoriousFNTSY. Any final words for the people before we head out?
Yeah, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. I was going to mention it, but we kind of breezed past it. Last night, I won $1 on the best ball contest for I put in $10, came out with $11. Huge win for me. Yeah, those contests are very fun. Like doing just a 2-game draft for Monday Night Football was incredibly fun. Obviously, I didn't end up getting everything correct, but still had a fun time doing the drafts. I love drafting. And again, I won $1. So huge applause to me. So make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you check out my YouTube channel as well, Notorious Fantasy by Stokastic. I post videos every single day on there. We're going to do the start, sit, running backs, and receivers today. The videos are always very fun on there. And then make sure you're back here tomorrow, 10 a.m., the exact same time. What is tomorrow? Is tomorrow running backs?
Yes, sir. Running backs. We're going to talk about our tiers, and we will have the Stokastic ranks at that point, too.
Yes, sir. The running back ranking is always fun. We'll make sure to try to answer your guys' questions. And again, I'm not trying to make Savoca sit here for an hour, but make sure you guys do ask questions in the comment section afterwards. I always go in there and try to answer as many questions as possible. I know that people like when their questions are answered, and it helps us too if I answer your question. So make sure you guys ask questions, hit the like button or dislike it, whatever, that helps too. I don't think people know that, but that does
relationship, help. Right? You get the help that you need, and it helps us as well. That's a win-win-win, as they say. For Nick Lepri at NotoriousFNTSY, my name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic. We will see you back here 10 a.m. Eastern. See you guys later.